Hello, welcome to Mystic Revolutions.
We are in season 5, The Path to Psychic Mastery.
Susana and I are so glad you're here for another great conversation. But first, a little meditation. So if you're seated, please get comfortable in the chair and start to tune into your inner world. Close your eyes and let's breathe. And let's breathe in from the heavens, in from the universe, filling your chest, filling your belly, and then release at your own rate. Release that breath to the center of the earth. And when you're ready, let's breathe in again from the universe. The dance of the cosmos, the breath of the divine, breathe it in and release to the earth. And as you do, allow the goodness, spiritual goodness for your soul to start to fill you up and imbue you with the blessings that you're hungry for. And as you release, let that go. Whatever you're done with, let it go down to the center of the earth, washing away like warm water melting ice, or blown away like dust out of your space to the center of the earth. And again, breathe. Good. And I hope that you continue to breathe in the goodness, the divine blessings, and breathe out yesterday's manna, yesterday's goodness. The things that no longer bring you joy are releasing. You're welcome to just stay meditating with your eyes closed as Susana and I start to have a conversation, or you're welcome to open your eyes and do whatever you want to do. We are going to open our eyes and actually start talking. So, hey, Susana.
Hey, Wendy.
So we're going to talk about the G word.
Yeah, so we're talking about experiencing the divine, God, Great Spirit. There's so many ways that people refer to this. And I know that people can get very attached to words related to the idea of the divine or their experiences with divinity. And it's been in my face a lot lately. And I just thought it would be good for us to just kind of dive right in and talk about it. Dive right in and talk about it. You know, lots of times when Wendy and I are sharing tools or doing meditations, we talk about the highest and best good. And for me, the highest and best good really points to God, the divine, right? Sometimes it's the heart of source. Really, it's the gods of your own heart. I'm just going to start out and say, right, this is called Mystic Revolution. And there are mystics who believe in God and mystics that don't.
Yes.
Yeah. And mysticism is not dependent on a belief in God. But for Wendy and I, we do talk a lot about this energy of the divine and of creation, right? Or of love. And so kind of diving into that today felt right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been blabbling a little bit. Wendy, do you want to say anything?
You're doing great.
I'm trying to set it up in a way that doesn't feel hard for people, because I know there's a lot of energy around this, you know, and people can get tripped up and people can get divisive. And I know that both you and I really try to approach it and create a container for people to discover what that means for themselves.
Yes.
Like we don't
Yes.
bring our personal stuff into it at all when we're working with people. So,
Right.
so okay, there's
Yeah.
the stage is set. What do you have to
Yeah.
say?
And I'll say something about that. I think some people have a hard time even understanding what you just said, that we don't bring our understanding of the divine into the container at all. When we're working with an individual or with a group, the whole idea is to set the container and utilize the powerful tools and processes to be able to have each person tune into their own direct experience of heaven and earth, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Um and for each of us, that's a different experience, and hopefully a different experience for even just for me over time.
Yes.
So we're talking about something that's very hard to talk about, and one of the ways I like to talk about it is about like the faces of God or the faces of the divine. We're all looking at different faces
Mm.
of the divine as we relate to this as a human beings, which is limited.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been saying for like decades and decades, it's like there are more faces of the divine than there are people,
Mm.
because we're all in process all the time. And so can we just like look at that? And there's some people who don't like the God word. As you said, the God or the divine. No, they're not, they don't believe in the divine. But when I start to say other words, I don't like, there aren't many people that don't believe, like I said, that or deep love, sacred truth, the beautiful way that our life unfolds, spirit,
Mm-hmm.
some kind of je ne sais quoi that is beyond the everyday.
Yeah.
Like I have creative friends that they're just like, oh yeah, I know, I taste that, I get that, I hear that, even though they're, intellectually atheists or agnostics. I'm intellectually an agnostic. But I've been crazy about God since I'm little. I'm crazy
Mm.
about God.
Mm.
And but my intellect is like, that's nuts. I'm like, you're right. Intellectually, I don't buy it. A lot of people do. I don't. Um, but there's something that's beyond this
Right.
going on, and we all call it something different. So can we talk about it and not get crazy? That's the question.
Well, and I think that's the big question. Can we talk about it? And I mean, part of what works when we work with people, and you mentioned it, going back to the tools of being able to own our own stuff, allow other people to have their own stuff that's separate and different, and use our discernment in every moment to, clear anything that comes up that feels like it's some right or wrong, us or them, whatever.
Mhm.
And being able to do that, I think, and this gets into then the conversation of mastery or spiritual mastery, and the idea that we can all have our own unique experience of the divine.
Mhm.
And no one's wrong and no one's bad.
Mhm.
And in
Yeah.
fact, each of us, if we choose this path or if it resonates, right, it's a constant growing and exploration and deepening. I mean, you referred to that earlier, right? You even said, I hope it evolves. I hope it changes,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I think when we were talking about this earlier, you talked about there's sort of the idea of like mental certainty about something.
Mhm.
And I think what we're talking about is sort of experiential,
Yes.
right? And that's different for every person, right? Wendy and I can both decide that, with certainty that this is a thing, but the experience of it will likely be very different. Therefore, the meaning of it is different. Therefore, like literally everything is different. If I can agree with words with Wendy, but our experience of it is completely different. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And that's good news. And
It's great.
that's the part, like some of us as humans, not everyone, but in general, especially if we're in a certain consciousness, we want to just nail stuff down. All right,
Yeah.
this is this and that's that. Fine. Now let me get on to getting my needs met.
Yeah.
Like, all right, this is handled. And that's great on the everyday level and on the physical level, but as mystics, we have an opportunity to just spiral up or drill down, or however you want to talk about it. We have the opportunity to go through, clear layer after layer of grime from the window in our soul till we can start to see the light more and more clearly. And I use the light a lot,
Yeah.
actually, because well, almost everybody can agree about this. It's like there's no theology about light, but we can see it. We know it when we see it.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty common experience. Like when the light dawns in our heart, in our psychic uh, vision or whatever, then it's hard to ignore it. And also when we watch someone else be full of light,
Yeah.
it's pretty obvious for those of us whose spiritual vision is open. You see it,
Yeah.
and you don't have to explain it.
You don't have to explain it. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so this light, I love diving into that because and I'll just share from my own experience on this path. I mean, that's the driver. And I know there are a lot of people that are like make fun of like new agey people that talk about love and light and all of that. And yeah, at a superficial level, if it's just sort of thrown out there, then it there's nothing holding it. But when you're on an intentional path of exploring the divine, or on your intentional soul journey, I mean, the illumination just starts to happen. The light just starts to show up. And the places that have been in struggle or suffering can start to ease a little bit.
Yes.
Maybe even a lot, maybe even immediately. I
Yes.
mean, I've had any and all aspects of that. And it doesn't mean that everything is perfect now and there's never any problems. I mean, life happens, but for me, it's something to lean into.
Mhm.
Like you said, something greater
Mhm.
that we are all a part of, but that
Yeah.
makes it even greater.
Mhm. Mhm. And we probably have talked about this some time, but this disambiguation that I feel like you're pointing to of our physical experience, which is up and down and all around and wonderful and terrible, and there's no getting out of that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
everybody with a
being a
body
human.
is
Yeah.
is dealing with the stuff of being a human, and it's not all pretty. And but meanwhile there's the spiritual experience, and as we like open the curtains to the spiritual experience, oh, the light floods in, or the love, or whatever you want to say about it, the glory. And it doesn't mean that I'm not grieving, or that I am struggling to learn something or whatever. It doesn't This stays the same. Potentially sometimes it can shift, but the divine experience puts it in a whole different light.
Yeah.
What's the most important thing? And I'm thinking about Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl. It's just like, if you have a purpose, humans can handle anything if you have a purpose. And if you have no purpose, you can't handle anything. Right? So if we're living in this, like, we open the curtains and there's all light coming through, it's like purpose.
Yeah.
And I can handle the distraughtness. It will end, and the light doesn't have to. So anyway, I feel like that disambiguation is not always well done in the spiritual space. And and it makes all the difference. It's like, it's nobody's saying, when we say like the all, or like we can experience heaven on earth, or like whatever these words are that we say over here, it doesn't take away that everything and everyone I love in the physical is passing away. Like, that's true. And yum. So I don't know, is that a helpful part of this conversation for you?
Yes, it's helpful. And it makes me think of a phrase, that the idea of the love that creates and permeates all that is. That can be one way to describe it.
Yes.
Love is. Love is.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So please come back from break when we talk about the love that permeates all that is.
Okay.
Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Hey friends, Susana and I want to remind you that we offer a Mystic Revolution meditation. It's the first Tuesdays at 4:30 Pacific. Please come as our guest. You can see our website for the link. And thank you for playing with us.
Raise your vibration and energize your life with specialized Fibonacci tuning forks that deepen meditations and empower self-healing. Get your vibrational sound tools for personal enhancement at energybodytuners.com.
Welcome back to Mystic Revolution. Susana and I are talking about the G word, and we're talking about God and the love that permeates all that is. Susana, what do you want to say about that?
Well, I think if I had heard that concept some such years ago when I was in dire straits, I wouldn't have fully believed it. I would have wanted to believe it, but I guess I could believe it for other people, but not for myself. What was really the bridge for me is how much time I spend in nature and my connection with nature. And there I can see that just radiating from every plant, every tree, every little drop of water. And that bridge was really an important one. If I can allow myself to have that experience of love or understanding something greater than myself in the natural world, can I also allow it to come with me wherever I go?
Yes.
Be with me wherever I go, and it turns out I could. I just had to do a little work on myself. And I intentionally sought that out. At some point, I intentionally sought people that I knew more, or had at least experienced life more in that way than I had. Yeah. What about for you?
Yeah, the touchstone of nature used to be, it still is.
I know you're like in the middle of
like,
nature.
I
mean,
am.
you live on the road in
I
nature, so it is.
suck it up. I suck it up. But a couple years ago, I made a turn in which, like, I could finally, it took so long. I used to be like, I'd fall into the darkness or the heaviness or the behind the curtain so easily, and then I'd like have to drag myself up or get help to, to shift and be able to like stand in the light again. And just a couple years ago, it just, like, whenever I look within, there's light now. And that's huge. And I'm not saying that because like I'm special. I'm saying it because it's possible. It's
Yeah.
possible. And it was not possible for me. And then it was, and it took a lot of healing. It took a lot of willingness to attend
Yeah.
to the stuff inside that didn't want to live in the light and the places I was caught. But anyway, that's just it. I'm not used to it. It's just like this giant, it's just like Christmas morning every morning. It's like, oh my gosh, like there's light instead of struggle. And I managed to put in struggle, no worries. But there's just light whenever I ask. And that's just an important thing to say, I think. And I'm being redundant now, but it's just so exciting. Then meanwhile, I can have icing on the cake. So it used to be I had to go to the nature, or I had to get help with the, trading with a different healer. I had to find ways to do that bridge or tunnel. And now it's more like icing on the cake, going to nature, or doing different spiritual practices, or etc. That's my experience. What do you have to say about that?
I had a very over time, like I continually get little surprises by myself, or I'm surprised by myself, where something in the past which would have shook me in some way, or I'll just say that, like, it just doesn't anymore. And someone might say, well, that's because you've, or been on the planet X amount of years, you're more mature. But I mean, there are plenty of people that have been on the planet a long time that, still struggle with that, or maybe aren't mature in some areas of their life. And believe me, I'm not saying I'm super mature by any stretch. I'm literally saying the difference is I somehow created this level of stability in myself by the practice of like tuning in and leaning into the divine, leaning into source energy, leaning into the highest good, leaning into God. I was talking actually with a friend of mine who's Norwegian, and we were talking about how, right, the word good is God.
Yes.
Like when we and how that's like, if it's hard for you to embrace the word God, maybe embracing the word good, just goodness. And it's interesting it's interesting to look back at how for a certain period of my life I didn't see any good.
Yeah.
The programming was sort of like, there's nothing good.
Yes.
Everything is hard. Everything is sucks. Like the world is awful. People are awful. I'm doomed.
Yes.
Whatever it is.
Yes.
Right?
Hopeless, despair. Yes. All the dark heavies.
Like I literally can't pinpoint the moment when things started to shift. As I say, nature was just a huge friend in this.
Yeah.
But something started to shift where, then the light could come in and be, the good could come in and be, and then I could actually allow it, and then I could actually allow more of it. And it was just a process.
Yes.
And it would not have been the same had I just decided, well, this is what I believe.
And then stuck there.
Yeah.
For mystics, what you're saying is like intellectually said, God is like this or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying intellectually, like a belief system?
Yeah, a belief system. I mean, and I take that would not have worked for me. I get that people have grown up in belief systems or come to belief systems, and really the same thing, right? It's, are you allowing yourself to grow and deepen in your journey in that belief system, which is completely valid, right?
Yeah.
All of it is valid.
And that's really, I feel like I want this to be the theme of this conversation, because I hope that we have a few more about this. Some of us mystics believe in God and some don't.
Yeah.
But I don't think that matters at all.
I don't either.
I think it's just words and belief systems, and some of it's programming, and some of it's like just thought processes that can even get in the way of us deepening into our divine experience, whatever that might be, or deepening into the spiritual dance. And I just, from my experience of many mystics of many different flavors, some of them trained in the kind of things we do and some not, what I find interesting is that it just doesn't matter what we call it, we're engaged with it.
Yeah.
And sometimes wrestling and sometimes floating and going along. So I think that's the important part of this conversation, that it's just like, regardless of what we call it, there's something delicious around here that we can engage with, and that is real in our soul.
Yeah,
And
that's
is
real.
beyond the mental models that we might have.
Yeah. Yeah. And, as I said, when I got going, when I got going, I started studying a lot of different belief systems. I mean, my very first experience of God was like when I was like 7 years old, and my neighborhood friend, whose parents were also highly academic, we rode our bikes to the nearest church because we weren't going to go there with our families, right?
Right.
Curiosity about what this, I mean, use the word the deliciousness, but what is this larger force, this larger love? And and then I went into studying all sorts of different things, some mainstream, some more esoteric, and it was all fascinating and mental and experiential, but it all come back to this, the center core of what we're talking about.
Yes. Awesome, Susana. So we're coming to the end. Is there anything else you want to say in this conversation that we can't wait till the next one?
No, I think we're good.
Well, I hope that folks come back for the next, and I want to hear more about your path, like what it's been explicitly like, because I find that so fascinating to hear in general, but and then specifically with you, what has the dance been like, and how's it changed, and how's it brought you here? It's such a neat conversation, I think. Inspiring.
Well, likewise. Yeah, likewise. Okay, well, we will look forward to seeing you next time, but I think Wendy's going to take us out with a meditation.
Okay, well, let's just tune in on the inner world again and do the same kind of thing that we did last time, and allow yourself to breathe in the breath of the divine, the sweetness of love, the ring of truth, whatever it is, that words that work for you, and breathe in your chest and belly and release that breath along with what you're done with down to the earth. Do that a few times. Good. And along with what you're done with, how about you allow all Susana and my words and concepts to release from your space as well as you breathe out. And as you breathe in, filling up all the change or shift that might have happened in your space, and breathe out. And then breathing in the spiritual certainty that whatever you experienced in this conversation for you is yours. and then releasing what's not yours. Good. And just feel free to keep staying with yourself in your own space as Susana and I come out of meditation to say goodbye and thank you so much for playing with us today. And we really appreciate you being part of our conversation, and we hope that you come back for more.
Bye.
Thanks so much for playing with us. Please support Mystic Revolution by liking and sharing our show.
And sign up to get notified when new content is available. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Have a happy always.
Join us for our monthly Mystic Meditation on the first Tuesday of the month at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time.
Click on the link in the description to get more information and join the Mystic Revolution.
We look forward to seeing you then.